Okay, so for this week's episode of Forward, I have a very special guest with me. So I have Gabriella Viteri, and if some of you are wondering what's going on with their screen and why they can see double, she is my twin, and I've always wanted to, have Gabi on our podcast, but now in our Forward series. I think now more than ever, I wanted to have her on because I think wellness is a big topic for all of us right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and for all of us, our worlds have been turned upside down, and we still are expected to be very productive in our jobs. And now we also can see how, life is fleeting, and one of the best things we can do for ourselves is take care of ourselves. And I wanted to approach this in a way where it's how we can, incorporate wellness practices into our day to help boost productivity. Because I think the main thing for us in marketing is how can we just do better at our jobs? But all of these can be taken of, wellness that will help us with, everything in our whole life. So Gabi, do you want to, and I'll call her Gabi because I can't help but call her Gabi. So do you want to just maybe, talk a little bit about your background, just so everyone can understand, what you do and what you're an expert in?
Yeah, totally. And I'm super excited to be on here. So my background, I am a registered dietitian, and I have been working as a dietitian for almost 10 years, I think around 8 or 9 years now. I started more in clinical work in private practice and weight management, and have had different roles. I had a role in sales with nutrient needs via IV nutrition. But then I went back into wellness again, doing registered dietitian work, now mostly in the corporate wellness industry. So I'm on my second tech company where I actually moved into a role that is beyond nutrition. So now I am actually a registered dietitian and a certified health and wellness coach, where I just actually just sat for a new board exam for health and wellness coaching and have a certification in that now too. So in my role now, I help corporate employees at a big tech company through a primary care clinic work on different areas to help with anything from boosting productivity to helping prevent chronic disease. We tend to focus in kind of four domains, which is nutrition, movement, or what people call exercise, sleep, and stress. And so those are the four big areas that we coach on and help people incorporate different techniques, all driven by the patient, as this is a very patient-focused program where they come up with their goals and kind of meet them over time.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that, for this call or, meeting we're going to have, I think I wanted to approach it in a way where we can talk about the whole day. So everyone's day, from the beginning of your day throughout the day and then the end of the day. What are some ways that you can incorporate some of these, wellness best practices and strategies? And I think for all of us, we maybe will, have some of these that we do each day, or maybe we, start out by, working out in the morning, but then the rest of the day we, abandon all other wellness strategies. Maybe we miss all of our meals. We, stay up way too late. We don't do anything that helps with our stress. And then we wonder, why am I not feeling great? Or why by 3 o'clock am I, tired? And then I go and just eat a cupcake. And I think that some when I look at people around me, and also since I've incorporated more wellness, I've been able to really, optimize how I do my job. People will say, "Oh my gosh, how do you support that many clients? How do you do all the stuff that you do?" And I really think that having a approach at optimizing yourself, it will really help optimize how you do your job. Um, so what about the mornings? We all wake up, some of us earlier than others, and um, I know I'm always been an early bird. It was really hard after having Ava, getting up, especially when you're waking up multiple times during the day. But now that she's on a better schedule, I can wake up early again. But what are some ways that you can incorporate wellness or kick off your day?
Yeah. So whatever is like your normal wake up routine, it would be good to think about, is there a way to wake up maybe a half an hour to an hour earlier, if you can fit that into your sleep schedule, as a way to bridge the gap between you waking up and kind of starting your day at work. It will be something that will provide you with energy, very, feel very grounding, and give you a sense that you're not just a person who wakes up, works, and then comes back home. You do have a life outside of that, and I think that gives a lot of people great happiness and gets them kind of ready to start the day. There is this concept from a book called by Hal Elroy called The Miracle Morning. So kind of think about what would be your miracle morning. Maybe pick anything from like 1 to 3 activities that will kind of support either your physical health, emotional, or mental health. Some of my patients definitely maybe start the day with some movement because they think that will it helps with focus. So they tend to start their day feeling really productive. But there's also other activities. Some people like to start their day with meditation, or some type of mindfulness activity, and there's great apps for that, or videos. Others might want to have a cup of tea, sit on their deck, and kind of do some reflection outside, whether it's journaling or kind of setting up their plan for the day so they feel less anxious about what they're going to start. Some might even, call a loved one, or just spend like, an hour talking to, someone that they love. Basically anything that you think would provide you, growth in any of those 3 areas that I talked about, and it'll allow you to feel really good going into your workday.
Yes, I think a lot of us think, oh, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and do a workout in order to have a miracle morning. And like you said, that, movement can be a big one as part of those 3 areas, like movement, meditation, and mindfulness. But, you know, maybe your movement looks different than others. Maybe that's just, taking your dog for a walk, or
Mhm.
um, doing some stretching or doing some breathing exercises. And that can even have meditation on top of it. But
Mhm.
whatever activity I think can, like you said, give you that extra space before starting your day that helps you go into your day feeling a bit more settled.
Mhm.
It's great. Some people even think that, like, if they have a long commute, they'll put some meditation or singing in the car. And I
Mhm.
think that even by itself is something. You're not just thinking about what work you have to do all the way to work. Well, right now, most of us don't have that commute. Um, but so it is a good time to maybe start some of these activities. And if you do have children, that might mean waking up before them. I know
Mhm.
I try and do that. So I can at least have some period of time in the morning to myself before taking on the craziness.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing that's kind of going on right now with like my patients is They either feel kind of overwhelmed by waking up because they know how they have to plan their day for their kids who are at home, or they're having trouble getting the motivation to get up because they just know work's there for them. And so part of building in this miracle morning can maybe provide the structure that you need during this time of quarantine, and also give you something to look forward to, or have a commitment to, right? If you told yourself, I'm going to do a 5:30 Peloton ride tomorrow with my friends, that will maybe be part of your miracle morning. That gives you this sense of like urgency to get out of bed that maybe we're lacking right now. And it's just due to maybe not having that structure or purpose in that morning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for myself, like a typical morning, once I have built a routine, I feel like that has helped a lot. So I normally, in the morning, I wake up, I do some type of movement if I'm lucky, to most days, starting around like 6-ish. And then after that, I kind of, have my coffee, take my dog for a walk with also my daughter and my husband, and then come back and then go into, making breakfast and then doing my day. And when I'm able to hit all of those, at least in the morning, it feels really good because I can ease into my work, but it also feels like I've had so much of my day already. And I feel ready to attack my work instead of, like you said, that like dread of my work just attacking me.
Yeah, I actually have had many people and patients tell me that they get motivated by accomplishments. So like just knowing that they already mark some things off for the day before they go into their work day, like makes them super motivated in their day job. Like they feel like, super woman or man, taking on, everything. Like, oh, I got in my workout and I made breakfast and meditated. Like I can take on anything this morning, right? And that really boosts self-confidence, like going into the workday for sure.
Cool. So we got our mornings down, and for everyone that might look a little bit different. I think the biggest struggle for people is, what are some of the things they can do throughout the whole day? Because that's when they're working. That's when they're busy and they're stressed and, they're deep into their work or juggling a lot of things. And right now that can be you're juggling homeschooling, taking care of maybe kids at home, having a spouse nearby, and then also this work, and then also the anxiety, right? Of like everything that's going on in the world right now. And so like we needed more anxiety as it is, and now we have that going on. So what are some of the things that you see people struggle with most during the day, and what are some of the things that they can do to like combat that?
Totally. I would say like some of the biggest struggles that I hear from people are feeling of like just kind of heightened stress and anxiety throughout the day. I work with people who are in very dynamic roles, have, a lot of pressure, a lot of meetings. So that can kind of take a toll. Maybe even have like lunch meetings. So, where like even during their lunchtime, they may be kind of stacked.
Yeah, most people listening to this don't know what a lunchtime is, including me. We have meetings over that, or we work through our lunch while we eat it because we're just so busy. So
totally. As well as, fatigue, especially like our bodies have a natural fatigue time, and it actually is the afternoon, which is 3 or 4. But there are certain things that can help combat it too that we talk about. So I guess stress, anxiety, kind of fatigue, skipped meals, not checking in or taking breaks, sitting for too long in improper posture. Those are probably the biggest things that I tend to see. And the things that tend to be helpful are actually pretty simple. So like the best way to kind of think about this is first start with lunch, and maybe even you can apply this to like a snack. Preemptively think about when's the best time for you to eat. So if you have to go to, say, a cafe at your location where you work, where does that fit in? Because many times what I'll usually hear from people is like, well, I got a meeting that was at 12 and I waited too long and didn't get to go buy food. If you don't pack your own lunch, maybe try to preemptively go get your meal. Even if it's at 11 o'clock and you're not ready for it, at least you have it, right? Like, and you can eat it. Ideally, if you can pack your own lunch, it will be with you. And so when you're thinking about the composition of your meal, what is on your plate matters as well. And, I don't want to sound, too preachy or like your mom and tell you what to eat. But if you think about the different things that are on your plate, they can provide a lot of value. When it comes to anxiety, improper blood sugar fluctuations can really heighten that. So number one, not eating is definitely going to heighten anxiety because your blood sugar is going to go really low. Your body's going to then create another stress response because underfeeding causes that. And so you're going to have increased heart rate and anxiousness. So number one, maybe just sitting down to eat. Number two, maybe thinking about what you are going to choose, and do you choose a bowl of pasta that has a plain sauce on it? Or do you choose an option like salmon with some vegetables and whole grains? Think about the difference between those two. Ideally, if you have protein and fat in your meal, it does help with maintaining proper blood sugars because they kind of slow down the digestion of the carbohydrate in that meal. They also help with that blood pressure being steady will help with your fatigue, reducing post-meal kind of blood sugar drop. As well as helping with less stress and anxiety as well. Having fiber in that meal, so making sure that you're kind of loading up on your non-starchy vegetables and whole grains, legumes, those are all going to be things that kind of stick with you. And the more you kind of choose those foods, you're going to have better energy levels.
Yeah, and I think right now we're at home, a lot of us for lunch. And so we do have that luxury of having our fridge nearby. And unfortunately there is, it's sometimes hard to get food right now. So if you are shopping, like getting some shelf stable stuff is good, or, ordering or getting some vegetables that'll really hold up in your fridge. And a lot of those can make up something that you can keep in your fridge for a long time to put meals together. So one thing that I do is like on a Sunday, I make a salad, but I make it of things that can sit and like marinate and will always be good. So it's always like some kale, it's really sturdy, some like pickled beets that are sometimes already prepared, or you can prepare your own, some type of like really crunchy vegetables like carrots and radishes. And then I also add in like a bean, like a lentil or garbanzo beans or something like that. And those are things that you can just get canned. You don't even have to make them fresh yourself. And then on, that like rarely goes bad. You can make a big thing of it, and I can literally do it now in minutes. And your dressings can just be like olive oil and lemon or, whatever kind of bright. It could even be juice from a pickle jar. It could be anything, so and then you can add on like fats to that, or make some like boiled eggs or something and have that sitting by. So I think thinking of all those things also last a long time in the fridge right now, like kale, radishes, carrots, those are going to last a few weeks. And then those canned beans and everything are shelf stable pantry items that you can have and put that all together, and that's a pretty decent meal. And then you can add on eggs or meat or whatever if you do eat meat during the day.
Yeah, those are like perfect examples of things that you can make well in advance. And yeah, and even if you're not using like a sturdy type of green, I have many patients who will make salads and not dress them and keep them
Mhm.
in a container that's really airtight. And then once they're ready to put everything together, they can. So, and Chrissy's right, like having a lot of, you know, easy to put on proteins is really great, and you can find them shelf stable. If you're plant-based, your carbohydrates are also going to be part of your protein, so you can just add some nuts and seeds to it. So like lentils, chickpeas, and things like that. Um, but there's also things like there's really good canned tuna and salmon out
Yeah.
there. There's like sardines. There's pre-hard-boiled eggs. There's baked tofu, and so those all are super easy and really good options to keep on hand. I had something like you today for lunch where I made a cabbage salad yesterday that's sitting very well, and then I added some tuna and then a dollop of hummus for some fats. And so, yeah, super nourishing and really easy to put together.
Yeah.
So kind of going into some of the other things that I said that were simple. So weirdly enough, one of the biggest complaints that I get is fatigue, but it's due to dehydration. And so it's probably the most simple thing to do, but probably the hardest for people with they're going in between meetings or like not taking time to go grab their water bottle. So probably the simplest but best ways to reduce fatigue in the afternoon is drinking water. Ideally, we want half our body weight in ounces of water, but access is the hardest thing. So I recommend definitely getting like a water bottle and filling that up. Sometimes people get two. They go to fill it up in the beginning of the day, keep it at their desk, and like they aim to get through 2 bottles of water within that work day. It can also be things like sparkling water, herbal tea. And then one recommendation is kind of, stopping your coffee intake maybe by like, 10 to 12, and then kind of just switching to water after that. Many times if we have coffee, we tend to neglect our water. And so that's what kind of causes this like fatigue issue. You're at a certain extent, your body's not getting the energy it needs from caffeine. And then if anything, it's a diuretic kind of, removing the hydration from your body.
And it's just going to put you in like fight or flight mode, and all of your anxieties are going to seem so much bigger. Like I saw a meme one time that had like word bubbles of your worries, and it was like before coffee and they're a small bubble, and then after coffee they're still the same with a big bubble. And I love coffee, and I won't give that up, and I do think it does like start me up for the day, but I do say like after the morning time it's like a hard cutoff. And this is something like I used to maybe go, oh well, maybe like I'll have like a latte in the afternoon or something and go out for a coffee. And even then now I'm like, it's not worth it when you're wired and anxious and feeling dehydrated, or can't even go to bed that night. So
yeah, not many people know this, but the half-life of caffeine is actually 8 hours. So even 8 hours after you consume caffeine, only half of it is out of your system, and another half of that is out another 8 hours. So we actually like are more affected by caffeine than we think. And if we're constantly drinking it, you're just kind of compounding that, and does impact the last tip that we're going to go into, which is kind of like your sleep routine. So think about your future self, maybe cut it off by like 10 to 12 and feel, and then switch to increasing your hydration.
yeah. I think a few other things we talked about during the day is like taking some breaks, and some of that would be walking, or also getting some sun if you can for some natural vitamin D. Do you find that taking a break from your work is a good thing to do? And even if it's just for like 5 minutes, is that enough where you can like 5 to 10 minutes just go outside and do a quick walk around your garden or something? Because I know I really struggle with this because I'm just so busy, and I'm like, I need that 5 minutes, I need the 10 minutes, but do you think that just a little bit of time helps?
Totally. Yeah. In coaching, we learn a lot about like brain, like the kind of like your brain phases and what it needs and which part of the brains are being activated at different times. And they do stress like the taking brain breaks as a way to kind of boost creativity and productivity, because it allows you to kind of stop about what you're thinking, taking a break and reserving kind of that mental energy and going back to it. And so I actually recommend for people taking like a brain and body break if you can. So if you like, walk around, campus, like outside, or even just like if you work at home, going outside, maybe walk around your backyard, maybe go play, fetch with your dog really quick. And then you're kind of removing yourself from work, moving your legs, which helps get blood flow back to the body and reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. And then it also just kind of like invigorates you a bit. Most people find that these breaks really help them. If you can't just immediately stop technical work, say you're a manager, I do have like a lot of managers that go on walking breaks. Not only does it help them fit in movement throughout their day, which can be super hard if you have kids and working super long hours. But it can kind of separate, like they can sit down while they do technical work, which and emails, but then they can like do their one-on-ones while they walk. And not only do like their direct reports really like that, but I think it also gives them some time to like have that break, which is
walking one-on-ones are great. I think another thing too, if you're not going to be an active participant on a call, but you have to be on it, maybe going and taking a walk while you dial in, if it's quiet enough, especially right now when that's really the only thing you can do. It could be good. This is the one I really struggle with. But taking your dog for a quick walk could be good if you can fit it in. And today I just, usually I have help on Mondays, but right now I'm like balancing juggling without a nanny on Monday. And I just walked out with Ava in our backyard since the sun was out, and I like had her touch all of the plants and like the trees and stuff. And so she was getting stimulated, but then I was also getting sunlight and fresh air. And I think it really did help just with my mood in general, because we both just, got out of the house and able to soak in some of that sun.
Even if you can't physically move from your space, like taking some time to like just take a deep breath and kind of, I tell people to have tokens. So tokens are things that you can easily go to boost mood. I keep photos on my phone. I have a daily photo from Crissy that includes my niece Ava, and so that's actually my token. She's the cutest. And so I like go and like look at things like that in between seeing patients, because so even if you're having a hard day, we as like individuals have a lot of empathy. We can hold that, like whether it's stress or like pressure. And so like taking some time out to like look at these tokens, whether it's listening to a song or looking at photos or something like that, just immediately, boosts your mood and kind of brings you back to a better state.
Yeah. Cool. And I think one of the things that we didn't cover in there, but that I find to be something that does not help with that, is like us like just mindlessly scrolling through social media and Instagram. And I think that's another topic that I think we could talk about for a whole hour. But things that I do for just mental health in general, and sometimes I just take social apps off my phone, especially during work weeks, and then maybe I'll put it back on like a Friday. But scrolling mindlessly through Instagram isn't really inspiring during the day when you're working. It also can sidetrack you, and it's just like wasted time, and that's not doing anything that's really going to be better for you. And sometimes it can cause stress and anxiety. So I would say, as a side tip, like even having some like a social media diet throughout the week.
Do some social distancing from your phone. Yeah.
All right. So then, okay, so we got a good day now and talk about those
Yeah.
tips now. What can we do in the evenings to set ourselves up for being better, more productive during the day then?
Yeah. So, one thing I want to recognize is right now is that many time or right now more than ever, your home is actually your office too, which can
Yeah.
be super hard for people. Most of my patients are working far more than they used to, and it's just because they have it right in front of them. Even if you
Mhm.
love your job, it can be like addicting to like want to keep working. But whether you love it, or it is your job, it will produce burnout to a certain extent. And so, you know, what I've seen be helpful for people is they will have like a dedicated room that maybe they don't go often in. That's their office.
Mhm.
Or you can kind of like have your space, and then at the end of the day, kind of pack up everything and put it to the side.
Yeah.
When it's around, it kind of like reminds you of work, and then you feel very tempted to be like, oh, did someone answer that email?
Mhm.
And there's already going to be people that are going to distract you, whether it's text threads or Slack threads coming into your phone. So trying to do your best with removing yourself from your workspace is super helpful. And
Yeah.
having a cutoff point, I have, people who like don't really have these kind of set, boundaries between work and personal life. And, I always tell people to put in perspective, like if you put your salary into an hourly wage, what are you giving into the day? And so, being able to respect some boundaries when it comes to like personal life is huge. So that's first one, is kind of like, how to separate the two. There is this concept too of like, if you have to go to something for your kids, you don't have to fully remove yourself from work stuff, but just know that you can balance the two, right? You can
Mhm.
include, your personal life and work life at times, but not to the point where you're just like totally like ignoring your personal life because you have to do work things.
Yeah.
Um, Nutrition is just as important at night as it is during the day. So it's kind of like your another opportunity to kind of help with that blood sugar control. And kind of similar setup to lunchtime. As we get closer to night, we become a little bit more insulin sensitive. So unless you're working out in the afternoon, like, possibly think about trying to eat before 7 p.m. because when we secrete melatonin, it can be a time where our body doesn't want to digest food as well and as we did during the day. So maybe eating a couple hours before you go to bed, or by like 7 to no later than 8 o'clock. Um, Having dinner as a family or with roommates can be a really fun way to add in social connection, and be a routine and ritual to kind of bring the family or your friends together. Super great time now. I've even told people during social distancing, if you notice you're skipping dinner because you live alone, or maybe eating cereal, or then not something so exciting, maybe you FaceTime with your friends at dinner time, or do like a time where you guys cook together, or something
Mhm.
to kind of bring that social element back into your day. With your roommates, you guys can pick which days that you want to cook, so that alleviates some pressure to cook every day, giving you
Mhm.
a little bit of balance. Maybe you want to stay a little bit later at work, or add in a workout after work.
Mhm.
And then with your family, and we work longer hours than ever, so the time that you get talking to your kids can be limited. So
Mhm.
using this time to sit down and remove tech devices, be a good example. Don't look at your phone, and so your kids won't look at their iPads and phones. And maybe take like go around the table and say one thing that you're grateful for, or a positive experience that you had that day, or something that you learned. And these are all positive and mental health boosting activities that can start really young.
Yeah, and I
You can always,
think at the dinner table, I think if we have our tech devices near us, it's very that we might get sucked into some of the media that's even giving us stress right now, talking about the pandemic and everything. And I think it's healthy to talk as roommates, or as a family of what's going on, but also, using what you have around you, like even your food, like talking to your kids about, the meal that you made and what do they like about it, what color are these things, just finding some other things to talk about, to like ease that stress of, what's going on. Cause I think it's really easy to just talk about, this weird situation we're all in right now, or to talk about the bad things that happened that day. And I think, that's not setting everyone up to feel very relaxed, or, going into like the most important thing that we're going to talk about, which is sleep. And so trying to keep things pretty positive and uplifting, relaxing, is good for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and a growth mindset is not that you had any failures. It's recognizing your learned experiences, and so having your kids think about more about what they learned that day versus like things that they thought that didn't go well will help them be resilient. And so think about how that applies to your life. Are you thinking so much about the things that you thought were failures, or producing negative self-talk, or can you think of the things that were positive, but also learning experiences like, oh, I probably could do this better tomorrow. And what is that versus like, oh, I can't believe I skipped my workout again, or I can't believe I sent that email, or whatever, right? Or that error in Salesforce. I don't know.
You're trying to relate to our audience. I like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to think about. And as you wind down for the day, it's all about down regulation. We've, throughout the day, we're all about up regulation, right? How do I boost my energy? I have all these hormones kind of driving me to get all this work done. And that is actually what we want to downplay at the end of the day, because the more we're stimulated, the less likely we're going to go to bed. And so to calm, you have to have balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic part of the brain. And to do that, you need to add in some of these down regulation activities. Keep the lights low in your house. Crissy knows that my house is like, we don't have a lot of lights on ever, especially because I'm very sensitive to it, and also saves energy. So kind of switching to not having as many lights on, maybe put some candles on once kids go to bed. Not looking at tech devices. So, one way that you can motivate yourself to do this is connect with your partner or connect with yourself, right? Like remove the scrolling towards the end of the day, and just like do something like reading or journaling. Or if you're going to watch TV, watch something kind of like fun and relaxing. Save your stressful watching to the weekends and focus more on something kind of like fun and lighthearted. And if you can, maybe add just like, even if you are watching TV before bed, try to remove that from their bedroom, and then add in at least 5 minutes of something kind of relaxing before bed. Do a skincare routine or some stretching. Some people like sleep meditations. I'm huge in that, especially if you're having issues sleeping. 10% Happier has like great sleep meditations that kind of just guide you into sleep.
Yeah, and I think that I've incorporated a few things in the evening. Like I still like love watching some television, because TVs are never on in the house. So the only time I watch TV is at the very evening, like once the baby's down, or after I've eaten dinner. And I do like more of the uplifting stuff. But even while I'm doing that, if I'm not, getting some like touch from my partner and like a snuggle or something, I do just do some stretching. So I like in my living room, I keep my foam roller and some like stretching stuff. And I use that as a way to kind of like unwind and do some stretching then. And having that stuff like right by the couch, I think is helpful to just get you to do it. And then I've also, since January 3rd, I've been able to, I have it in my notebook, but I've been journaling like every single night. as I
Mm.
get into bed. And one of the things that it helped me do this is I just set up a few things for myself. And part of it is like gratitude, which I think you talk about it like in the morning, doing some gratitude journaling, or during dinner gratitude. But I just kind of check in with myself and see like, how am I feeling? What are two things I'm thankful for, two things that went well, and then two things I want to improve.
Mm.
And I jot those down each day at night before I go to bed. And most of it is positive, but even the things to improve, you'll find that by the time you get to the last one of like improvement, because you've gone through like how you're feeling in the day, it's usually something like, oh, I should have stretched more, or something like that. So or if I notice that I was distant or not present with Ava or something, then I'll write that. But most of it is positive, and just I think doing that alone has been a routine that I can stick to, because now I'm like, I can't miss a day in my journal. I write the date on each day, and I'm like, I have to do it. I even brought it with me when I traveled this year. So I think having something like that to just kind of like unwind, um, and really look back on your day, and have some gratitude and thankfulness, and I think sets you up in a good positive mindset for sleep.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, and
Oh, go ahead.
I think this one's like the hardest that topic for most people that I see. It's just like weirdly the hardest one to break. But one thing to notice, I have seen it be a catalyst for incorporating so many other health behaviors. If I've seen people, regulate their sleep, on a good, consistent sleep schedule, get their 7 to 8 hours, and they notice like, oh, I actually had energy to wake up and move, or that I had, I was getting work done more quickly. And so, or I was able to get up and make breakfast. And so there's so many different things that can come from that one simple thing. Because we're always told how important sleep is, but it's really like around 2006, there was people saying like, oh, we don't need sleep or whatever. Well, it turns out it's only like 1% of the population that needs, 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Everyone else is struggling on it. And I think, with the help of Ariana Huffington and Thrive Global, there's, we're learning that that's not the case. You do need sleep, and it is the powerhouse of, and people in Silicon Valley are recognizing that this is important. So
totally. I think that's a big thing. I think especially when you're young, you don't feel the effects as much for depriving yourself of sleep, but you'll definitely feel it as you get older. And for any person that has had a child, and then you actually realize what like true sleep deprivation is, unless you've been in like the military or something, you don't like, you just realize like how much sleep can affect you, your mood, even being able to pick up like cues to things. So like at work, someone might be even signaling like a cue to you to do something, or to feel a certain way, or to some sense of urgency. You can even like miss that from just being sleep deprived. Or you could like become even a bit paranoid, like you think that things are going wrong when actually, or seem monumental when really they're not, and just from being sleep deprived. And I would work like through the night early on my career, and I look at the productivity I have now, like prioritizing sleep, and I feel like I get a way better output now. Things that seemed hard to me and would, almost put me to tears, like now are just like simple. So it does play a big role.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
from a creativity standpoint, it's huge, because I used to, work in San Francisco, and I got like very little sleep early on in my career too, because I was, commuting 4 hours a day, still trying to maintain what I thought was important for health. But the missing link was my sleep. And I used to like stare at like the computer if I had to do something like creative for like hours, right? Like, how do I write this newsletter? How do I come up with this content? And now I it would take me like 30 minutes to do what I was like thinking about. And yeah, and so that's something I think about too, is like, you know, what's important to you? Is it important? Can you change some aspects of your routine? Even if it's like, maybe you have to commute far away. Maybe it's, after this saying like, can I work from home a couple days per week? And that allows for extra sleep. So, think about some strategy, and even during this time, if you can get an extra hour of sleep, like do it,
Yeah.
think about the benefits that you would get from it, or take this time to kind of get onto a good sleep path. Don't get on like a weird one, because I do hear that a lot. Like, oh, I'm going to bed now, like 12 or 1, because like whatever, I can. Why?
Yeah, that is one thing, like definitely try and make it so that with this weird schedule of working from home, that basically you just stick to your same schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, this has been great, so much content. But, to end things, just in a quick kind of detail, you work with a ton of people in technical roles. You're doing consults like, hours a day with people. What are some of the improvements that you've seen for people, especially in technical roles, who's most, people that we're speaking to? What are some of those improvements from putting in some of the strategies that you've suggested here at work?
Totally. Definitely, like ROI is like return on investment. So like my patients are spending less time working, but more time giving back to themselves. So they have better like productivity throughout the day. So they have better work, but less hours at work. And they're seeing this as like a good investment of time giving back to themselves. Better energy levels, decrease in, some health markers. So we didn't talk about this a lot, but some of my patients have like prediabetes or hypertension, some early signs of things that could get worse over time. And so they're help alleviating that. But even short term, they, have less sick days, because their, movement is helping their immune function.
Which is super important right now, that everyone's thinking about their immunity right now. So making
yeah.
it
Actually, moderate intensity exercise has been proven to reduce your risk of upper respiratory infection. So even if you can get some movement in at home, you have like a million home workouts to pick from Instagram, so pick one. And then incorporating that in, super helpful. But also mental health days are decreased, right? If you're feeling good and you're feeling less burnt out, you can show up to work feeling happy, and
yeah, which is probably going to make you just such a valuable asset for your role to your job, and your bosses are going to notice that, and that's just a competitive edge that you can have if that's part of what drives you.
yeah, and self confidence is definitely increased when we feel good about what we're giving back to ourselves. Like, the best way to boost your confidence is to do things that make you feel good. And so everyone at work wants to be around the person who has not only confidence in themselves, but confidence to give out, good work. And so that's definitely huge, and what I've seen. And just like being able to stay in a job long term. Have a lot of conversations about boundaries, and it's tough being in Silicon Valley in these roles, right? It's not easy. And so being able to kind of create these healthy, routines and structure in their day that allows them to kind of stay in these intense roles.
Yeah, I think that makes we can end it here, but that's a good point, because we talk about this a lot at CS2, like why people just move on to new jobs. And I think part of the thing is people are just, searching for something. They don't know what's missing. They think it's their job that is giving them these problems, this anxiety, stress, and these issues. And a lot of the time it's just you're finding the same problems when you're going to the other job. So if you focus on being the better you, and there it's you probably find that like your job's fine, you can be better at that job. It's not the job that's making you sad or tired or uninspired. It could be just some of the things that you're doing to yourself. So we'll leave that at that. But before we end this, where can people find you online to learn more? I mean, they could message me, and they're probably all going to try and be friends with you now through me. So I'm going to get a lot of message. But where can people find you online?
Yeah. So, well, I do have a website that includes a blog that I've been definitely active on. It was started out as a food blog and now has transitioned to an overall wellness blog called macrobalance.com. So macro, like the food, MACRO, and then balanced.com. And then I have an Instagram account that I use probably most frequently. And that is Gabriella, my first name, GABRIELLA_B_RD.
Sweet. Well,
Yeah, it will say that I am Gabriella Davis, and it is true. I am Gabriella Davis, but Crissy will call me Gabi, and then Bateri is my maiden name.
Yeah. So
yeah.
This is great, and maybe we'll have some follow-ups because I think wellness is so important right now. But thanks for coming on for this week's Forward.
Yay! I'm so excited. It's been my it's my first type of interview like this for type of podcast series, and I'm a huge advocate of like spreading knowledge in a conversational way and things that are approachable to people. So hope you all like it, and hope I can come back.
Thanks. All right. Bye, Gabi.
Bye.